It's just overwhelming, the fact that I know that I can't get out of this situation. It was something that I'd never had or felt before. When he wanted me, he'd pull me in and I felt great and I felt safe. And then he'd push me out and it'd be quiet or he'd be aggressive. I gave over nearly 35,000. You're living in a kind of surreal existence. You're waiting for him to call, because if he doesn't call, then the fear gets worse. So it all began in the June of 23. I'd just come out of a not great marriage. I had a lot of people and friends around me saying, look, we've found love online. I decided to give it a go, and I did, and I built the profile. I woke up one day and got a message and it said, hello. I was quite shocked, to be fair, because when I looked at his profile and his picture and everything, I thought, wow, okay. We started talking and this went on throughout the day and into the late hours of the evenings. The conversations were tip-tap constantly. He was very affectionate. He was very complimentary, contacting me all the time through the day, through the evening. And then the more that I spoke with him and the more he said I was beautiful or I was such a good person or I was doing this, and then he'd ask about what I was doing in my day and if I was going out. He'd say, drive safely, take care, let me know when you get there. These are all things that I wasn't used to. So again, pulling me in, it made me want to speak to him more. And I enjoyed speaking with him. You know, it was fun. We had fun as well as just the complimentary side of it.
There's what I would say is 3 common themes to look out for. So the first would be speed. Excessive flattery and the scammer just really trying to speed up the pace of the relationship.
We were talking like that through the app for a good few days before he asked me to move.
A lot of dating apps and social media have protections in place to monitor for scam-like behavior in chats, but encrypted messaging apps don't. So there's a big impetus for the scammer to move you as quickly as possible from wherever they started the conversation to an encrypted messaging app.
I didn't really think anything of it, because don't forget, I'd never done anything like this before. So to me, I was quite naive. I thought that was the way that things were done.
From there, you're gonna get engaged in weeks, months, it's sometimes even years of conversation.
He said that his father had passed away. He explained how this had happened. He explained that his mother was in Leeds. He was trying to get to know me as a person. He gave me quite a bit of background about himself. He explained that he did travel with business. He named many places that I knew of, which again made me feel more comfortable.
It's a very clever way. They normally open up first about themselves, and that almost as a victim gives you permission to open up about your life. It's called mirroring in psychology, and it's what creates that soulmate type of connection. When that part of the process is over, they start love bombing. And love bombing is a really intense time where you are being literally bombarded with attention and affection. So you are put on a pedestal. Your opinion matters.
He asked me what my dreams were, but my dream really was to find friendship, but also to have that encased with love. I asked him that and I said, what do you want? And he said, I want the same. I'd like to have children. I'd like to have that family home life that I've not had. I wanted to give that because that's important to me. The messages became more intense and more frequent. I enjoyed that attention because it's something that I've never had. And it seemed like it was real and it was for me. He said, we can do this together. We'll make it work. You're not on your own. So my mind's telling me, this is good, this is positive, this is something you've never had before, Kirsty. If you step away now, he might think you're not interested.
Once they've bombarded you with all that love and attention, they will suddenly disappear.
So they might say that they're on a work trip and that's why they're unable to meet in person. There's a lot of delay tactics.
It was about 2 to 3 weeks, and he'd said that he was going away on business. And we were just normal chit-chat. What have you done today? How are the children? He sent me a picture of him all dressed in a suit, but I didn't hear from him after that. He didn't speak to me, he didn't ring, there was no messages, and I thought, do I message or does that look desperate? A few days later, he got in touch. How are you? Where have you been? What have I done? And he just said, look, I've been in an accident. I was pulled out of a taxi. I was mugged, and I've had all my details and my credentials taken, and they've taken some of the paperwork too. And I just kept asking, are you okay? And he said, well, I'm in the hospital, but I'm okay. And then he sent me a picture of him in the hospital. I started crying because I thought, if I was in a situation like that, God, how would I feel? I just wanted to make sure he was okay and talk to him, that he'd started saying that he loved me. And I actually then said, I think I've fallen for you too.
The second is urgency. And so if it is a traditional romance scam where they are asking you for favors or fabricating personal emergencies, it's going to be a series of asks. Medical emergencies, they might ask you for help with their business because they're locked out of their bank accounts.
It was in the evening again, and he said, I need you to do me a little favor, Kirsty. Would you go on to my online banking and move the money for me, because I'm really struggling to do that over here. He said, I'm going to give you the permission to do so. It's imperative that it gets done, or I'm going to lose money, as well as being in a foreign country and in hospital. And I said, yeah, I will help you this once. I went straight to the banking website, and yes, he had over 650,000 euros in his account, and I was shocked. Oh, God, I don't have that kind of money, so what does he see in me? And I had sent across the 40,000 straight away, and he just was so thankful. I felt like I'd done a good thing by the end of the call. He then came to me again. I am a businessman, you know this, you've seen my account. And he asked me if I would do the same thing again. 6,500 over to pay my hospital bill. I put the details in, and that's when it blocked me out of the account. And that's when he said to me, I can't believe you've locked me out of my account. This is all your fault. How could you possibly be so stupid?
If you haven't reacted the way they wanted you to a question or a request, they will vanish. And for the victim that has had this, it's so intense, and the hormones and chemicals that are flooding your body is very addictive.
I'm truly very sorry. I've done everything that you asked me to do. I can't talk to you right now. I've got no time for this. I can't believe you've done this. And he put the phone down, and I didn't hear from him for a day. I thought, oh God, I've really gone and done it now.
It has the effect that when they come back, you are so fearful of not losing them again that you become more compliant to what their ask is. And that's how that manipulation works.
But then he did get back in touch, and he was the person that I'd been talking to for all that time. And he said, I'm really sorry that I lost my temper. And he said, I would never normally ask, but I'm going to need your help. You've got me in this mess, and I need you to help me get out of it so that I can get the banking situation sorted. And I said, so what is it that you want me to do? And he said, can you pay my hospital bill? I had fear that had started to creep in by this point, because I'm thinking, this is my money. This is for my children. This is all I have.
People have got a very static opinion about what vulnerability is, but it's huge. And it can be anything from what we'd consider obvious vulnerabilities, like somebody that's going through a grieving process, somebody that's been in a really toxic relationship and they're getting a divorce. But it can also be when you're just really overwhelmed at work, when things are stacked up. It can also be, and what is probably the biggest problem in society at the moment, loneliness.
I just kept going around in my mind thinking, I've got this person into this situation, and this is my fault. He's made that clear, this is my fault, and I'm gonna have to fix this. And then he rang me again in the morning, and he says, are you gonna help me? And I says, yes, I will help you. He pulled me back in and said, oh gosh, that is an amazing thing. I can't believe you're doing such a wonderful thing for me. And £6,250 just went.
And when we are lonely, or any of those other things, it means that our bodies are in what's called a hot state. And it's because we have got all of those chemicals and hormones in our body. Unfortunately, it also means that we are more at risk of manipulation. Our bodies aren't capable of making rational, logical decisions. Victims that are in a hot state don't see red flags, they are beige.
Hotel bill, a few thousand here, a few thousand there, food, living costs, taxis, transport, renting an apartment so that he could go to the bank, other accommodation, 5 grand, 6 grand, 8 grand, 10 grand. Then it went on to flights. It just went on and on and on.
Sunk cost fallacy is where, a long way down the line, the victim may have started to feel that something is wrong, but they have invested so much, whether it's time, love and energy or money, into that relationship. They're thinking, if I just leave now, I'm going to lose everything.
And if I didn't do what I was supposed to do when I was supposed to do it, that's when he'd give me the cold shoulder treatment. Because when he stopped calling, I was like, what am I going to do? And that's when he'd stop ringing me. Money came in and money went out. It was like turning a tap on. I couldn't afford anything.
And then the third theme is secrecy. Scammers will try and isolate the victim from friends and family because one of the largest threats to a scammer is the community around a victim who might point out the red flags to them.
And every time he came back to me, he put more pressure on me. And it was always, we're going to sort this together. We're in this together. You don't need to talk to anybody else. They wouldn't understand.
Victims blame themselves more than anybody else is going to, and they really don't need anyone else adding to that. But the shame is so big.
My mum and dad had spoke to me and said, we don't see you very much, Kirsty. Are you all right? I said, yes, I'm fine. I'm just working and I'm doing. And they say, yeah, but you don't even ring up anymore or you don't get in touch anymore. And I said, I've just been really, really busy.
They don't want other people to know, and the fear is if they report it, other people are then going to start needing to come and talk to them. They just keep it with themselves, which is so sad.
People on the school run and things like that were like, well, you don't stop and talk anymore, Kirsty. I'd be on the bell. I'm always on the bell anyway, but there's on the bell and there's on the bell. And I would be just when all the other mothers had gone in or fathers had gone in because I didn't want to speak to anybody. I started to become a shell of myself by that point. I got in the car and Rachel said, Kirsty, I've got something to tell you. I found the man that you've been talking to. And I says, how do you know I've been talking to someone? She says, well, you told me in the summer.
This sunk cost fallacy is really important because it ties that victim into continuing, even though they might think that it could possibly be a fraud. Just as love bombing makes someone feel great, silence is used to make someone feel a bit terrible and to want to make things better.
And everything I had, everything I was, everything was just getting sucked into this hole, and I was just hanging on for dear life.